Hello, my name is Latour. I'm a librarian and open science coordinator for the University of Nouvelle-Calédonie since October.
Hello, and I am Wattelez, statistician, and I manage the data for some projects, research projects.
Open science, and specifically open data for research, following the as open as possible, as close as necessary mode, are subjected to a lot of national, European, and international rules. As far as France is concerned, opening data to research is the as open as possible, as close as necessary mode found its way into the law for a digital democracy, specifically in the decree relating to the respect of scientific integrity's requirement. And it's now part of the Education Code since last year. The application of these requirements has been clearly defined and framed in the National Plan for Open Science and in the Second Plan for Open Science. Those theoretical researchers all know how to follow the best protocols in data management and have the best possible tools to do so. But sometimes, reality felt during scientific research may lead to elevate these protocols in the most pragmatic way while still following the gainless.
Thank you for raising this point. And another important point is that it is recommended, and sometimes it is mandatory by funders to share and preserve the data. This is the case for the National Agency for Research in France, or for fundings provided by Europe, like that was the case with the Horizon 2020 program. And these funders want the research teams to preserve and share the research data. But one important question is, what is research data? Almost everything that is produced with a scientific methodology or to produce scientific knowledge can be considered as research data, and as you can see here, there is a farandole of research data. For instance, this can include observation and measurement data, so with sensors, for instance. We can consider too some audio and video as well as transcriptions. We can think about the digital simulations and etc. And another one, we don't think often about it, but we can also talk about the codes and scripts that can also be considered as scientific data in some cases. And without any doubt, research data can be very, very diverse.
It is the data life cycle, and in an ideal theoretical research project, the first step will be data collection. First, the researcher begins by writing a data management plan describing the whole data processing during the research program and define its diffusion and opening models. In France, we have at our disposal a tool called DMP-Opidor, which offers various DMP models according to the type of funding you might wish. It is a tremendous help in writing the data management plans. A data management plan is, of course, a living organism that must be built up before the first data collection and must be regularly updated, and not just at every mass extinction as shown on this image. In an ideal data management plan, the first step consists in locating the pre-existing data, which might be held in different research warehouses. It will later be completed with new data collected or built specially for the project. At this moment of data, we are still at stage 1. The data are still raw. They have been collected but not organized, edited or analyzed. In this first step of the theoretical project, one must also begin to think of and create the first description metadata in order to document the data collection. Which unities of measurement shall be used? What is the collection context? Which acronyms and parameters? Guillaume, in the Falah project, how did the data collection go?
Actually, I won't talk only about the Falah project, but we can think that to achieve a research project, researchers usually collect lots of data, as you know, and even things are beginning to change, but this data are processed and analyzed. But when the results and the research are published, the data remain as it is. And in the best case, they are stored on a machine or on a USB key, but only the researcher or maybe some researcher team member knows that it exists. And if the researcher retires or moves to another establishment, it can be very complicated and very hard, or if not impossible, to contact him and to request access to the data produced. Hence, the need for better data management to make it as accessible as possible. And for an example, I can talk about the example of the eating culture project, which consisted in studying the relationship between weight status and many other parameters. You have here some examples. So we collected data about questionnaires, about school data, accelerometer data, and questionnaires. And we also did some interviews. I was mainly in charge of the quantitative data, so the light blue ones on this diapo. And during this project, sorry, but we did not write any DMP, any data management plan. But the first time I have heard about that was during the Falah project and at the start. And it was quite funny because I remember the day which Olivier came to see me and said, he said that in French, of course, but he said, Europe asks us to write a data management plan. You are the data manager, so please can you write it? So yes, I did my best about that. I make some researches about, yes, I make many research about that. And Latour too provided nice information about this kind of document. So I don't know if she's here, not, but thank you, Marine, for your help about that. And very happily, we found the tool that we talked about before, the OPDOR, that was very, very, very helpful. So I progressed little by little, but very quickly I faced two issues about specific and technical questions that I can't ask about, I can't give answers about that. And finally, we worked with other team members to write the DMP. But yet, after submission with the EU funders, we felt some misunderstanding from them and from us too. That's why the DMP was submitted and resubmitted many times, and reviewed many times. So no, this is quite finished about that. But as you said, Mary, we have to be aware that DMP is supposed to change throughout the project. And maybe do you know Publius Serious? That was a guy who said one day, a bad plan is one that cannot be altered. So that's why on the beginning of the project, don't worry, the DMP have to be changed.
And the reality are maybe different. In an ideal project of theoretical research, the second stage of research data management is the data processing. That means you have to verify, clean, and validate data. We are in the stage 2, the stage processed data. For instance, it may have undergone calibration, benchmarking, or adjustment of the raw data. In the framework, adding descriptive metadata of quality and associating long-term loggings, like the DOI, to each set of data is essential if you want to avoid having to grab a plane to China in order to find what you are looking. In an ideal theoretical research project, the data must also be stored. The rule is the 3-2-1 rule. 3 identical copies stored on 2 different media plus 1 off-site copy. And in a real project like Falah, Guillaume, how is the data processing handled?
So for this real project, we merged and as an example, we merged the data collected from different sources. For instance, we worked with 2 different questionnaires with anthropometric measurements and etc. And as well as data were from questionnaires, we had a lot of information as categories, and sometimes we had to calculate scores from the answers, and that was the main processes regarding the questionnaire data of this project. We also basically processed some specific data like accelerometry data, and for each changes we have made, I noted what have been done, and this was like a lab book, but in an Excel sheet, or we can also call this like a README file. So we are aware this is probably not the best way to do it. No, I probably do it differently, but you know, the most important is the results, and the improvement can be implemented. I'm sure about that. And I think at this stage we would be able to update the DMP because you have a clearer idea of what the data processing is and about the associated metadata. And this ensures to get a good data management plan. And as said, Publius Serious, a bad plan is one that can't be altered.
In an ideal theoretical research project, the third step of data processing is data analysis. First, the researchers will interpret the data so they can reach the third step of their life when they will have been processed and analyzed. This is usually the last step before the results publication for articles in a scientific publication. Fourth, it is important that the data can be released at each step of their life because each can fulfill a sort of need amongst researchers. During this analysis process, researchers will provide scientific results. They will secure some of them through patents, and they will publish scientific articles. Guillaume, how did the data analysis process in the Falah project happen?
So the analysis depended mainly on the research question raised by the researchers. You have here some example of what have been published, and you know, when we write a research article, we have to think how to provide knowledge as clearly as possible. That's why we use several ways to synthesize the information and provide a very nice overview to the reader. And we use, as is done in many research articles, tables, lots of numbers and p-values, etc., as well as graphs like shown here. And at this stage, we can say that we can update the DMP once again because we have a clear idea of the analysis and of the way used to analyze the data. And do you remember Publius Serious? A bad plan is one that can't be altered.
After the analysis step comes the times for preservation. For this, one must increase the documentation metadata through a formal language, accessible and shared, using controlling vocabularies. Unlike this peculiar researcher, isn't it? It saves over time to migrate the data to the best suited format and an adapted support. Then you will have to put all this data in store and save and secure them. Putting for perennial conservation protocols will allow to keep such data still accessible, though they don't disappear. And we have to respect the FAIR principles. And Guillaume, in a well project as Falah, how does it go?
So for this project, this part is still in progress. Throughout the project, the files were firstly in my machine, and the data were duplicated in an external hard drive, and the heavy files and the less heavy files were stored on the UNC cloud. And at the end of the project, we prepared the data properly to deposit them on a repository like on Zenodo. And this task was really, really time consuming. But I think the reason why will be explained through the next step of the data lifecycle. And once again, at this stage, we can update the DMP because, as said, Publius Serious, a bad plan is one that can't be altered.
After the conservation step comes the step of data sharing. First, one must specify the data access rights and the level of opening they are granted according to their level of confidentiality, their sensitivity, or the presence of personal data. You accord also a license like Creative Commons, EthaLab, or GPL. The data will then be released on an as open as possible, as close as necessary mode, with 3 main possibilities to choose from. Supplementary data. It's the data field serving as an appendix into a publication. Data paper, describing a set of data in order to be able to reuse it, often with the link to such data deposit in a data repository. And data repositories that will be chosen according to some criteria allowing to calculate its level of trust. One will also choose, in this data sharing, the FAIR principle must still be upheld. Guillaume, how did you share the Falah project data?
So by storing the data on Zenodo, we were very careful to ensure that the data was understandable to others. That's why the uploading to Zenodo was very time consuming, as I said before. And the metadata must be very comprehensive and understandable. And the file content must be sufficiently described to allow its reuse. There are also other descriptions useful for data retrieval, like appropriate title, authors, and etc. And when storing on the Zenodo, we also had the idea to write data papers. One that describes the accelerometer data is already published, and it's here on the as an example. And we plan to continue this process. So, moreover, we took the chance to create 2 Zenodo communities dedicated to thematic issues. And at this stage, again, you can update the DMP, because remember that Publius Serious said a bad plan is one that can't be altered.
The final aim is the reuse of research data. It's true that reviewing systems are emerging for research data, like data paper. Such sharing allows to re-review the data and replicate scientist experiments in order to check the results. You can reuse of data in scientific research and reuse of data in teaching and learning. And in the how will the data from the Falah project be reused? Well, you decide. Then probably will you thought new scientific research include those data in your new data collection in order to start a new cycle, and so to begin a new scientific research. Here you have a bibliography, but if you like the small drawing preparing this presentation, be informed that they come from a comic book about data management and sharing, which I wrote in with a professional artist, and which was translated by a professional translator. By flashing this QR code, you can access directly the download of these comics on the Zenodo Open Archive. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for this very interesting presentation. And now we have 5 minutes for the question. So I let you ask your question. Personally, as a data manager, also I was very interested in your presentation, and I discovered Zenodo with your help some months ago. One reflection, one feeling I have also is that the rules of data management seems to be stricter for European countries with European rules. So when we compare us to our colleague to the Anglosphere, so what do you think about the difference of rules, notably the protection of personal data between European rules and the other?
The program of funds of financement in Europe says that you have to deposit your research data and share as open as possible, as restricted as necessary. And so Europe has great programs to financement. And if you want a financement, you have to deposit a DMP, a data management project plan, and you have to deposit your data research data, and to share this with restriction if necessary. But it's an obligation to have the funds.
It's maybe not a question, but a reflection, because we are very lucky to have you, Guillaume, in our team, because you're dedicated to engineering, data science, and help us in the data management plan. For our colleagues from the Pacific Island, I don't know, and that if you have one person dedicated in the team to manage the data, probably not. Okay. What do you? What would be the suggestion for our colleagues who are here and who wanted to start with data management plan without spending a lot of time, because I'm sure that they won't have time? And is it a middle way between what EU asks for us for this project, specifically for this project, and tomorrow for other projects at the uni and in New Caledonia, and what is possible in small teams or in other teams, but without a professional dedicated to the data management plan?
Well, thank you for your remark and your question. So I think we can do the things we are able to do. So yes, of course, we don't have all the phones or all the means dedicated for data, and maybe a first step is like this presentation, to have like a clear view of what are the good practices and maybe slow, step by step, try to catch this and to implement this. Everyone has its proper rhythms, but yes, maybe a first step is to have a clear idea of what can be done to follow the guidelines and to follow the good practices, and after we have to try. And for sure, I'm quite sure we will miss something. We missed something when we when we worked on that, and I'm sure that we will continue to miss something. That's the life, that's the work. Yes. So yes, don't be worried, and as we say many times, just start, try, practice, and yes, you can update. Yes, and for sure.
On the good plan.
Yeah, and for sure you have to have a good plan. That can be altered.
Thank you.